What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of 4 Dummies, and tonight I am joined with the other 3 dummies. I have Mrs. Skullface.
Hello.
I have Just One.
Yo, what's happening?
I have Robert D. Toff.
Robert Serious Face.
And tonight we're going to go with a topic that was actually Robert's idea, which was about these relationships that we kind of develop within the fandom in these communities, and how can they ever get to any sort of serious level, you know, based on the conversation elevating. If you make friends with a person because you like this preceptor and they also like that preceptor, what happens when you don't like the same music, when you don't like the same movies, when you don't have the same political views, you don't have the same religious views, you view life completely differently? Is there a cap on that type of relationship?
Yes, you have this collecting thing in common, but what if you have nothing other than the collecting in common? Is that
how far can that relationship really go?
What I find that's really interesting, at least I find that my sense of humor, like that's connected somehow to my interests, which is connected to Transformers, which connects me to all these people.
Right.
My sense of humor also translates to all these people, and their sense of humor also translates to me.
Yes, I agree.
But as soon as somebody starts going off on politics, then I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, you're what? You know?
Yeah, because so I wonder, like, how much of this is based on, you know, recess? You know, how much of this is based on that break between classes, you know, metaphorically speaking, for real life, where it's like, no, I'm not dealing with any of that in this world. I come to this world to get away from all of that. But at the same time, you know, how close can you really get to someone in a relationship when all you have to talk about is toys?
People make assumptions about my views. They do all the time. And I don't think I've talked about stuff I'm for and against and all this stuff. But what I feel like this community has done, at least on a fatty bell curve, what it's done is I feel like in the bulge of that bell curve, you have people who will continue to have a conversation with each other, even though they have what most people see as totally tribalistic, diametrically opposed viewpoints.
Yeah.
But because we have something that connects us, we can maybe respect each other to listen.
Yeah, that's an interesting point as well. I think that sometimes, especially with the more controversial belief systems, that you really do feel like it's us versus them.
Yeah.
I still think it's the people, though, because I've still seen, it's been a while, obviously, but I've seen plenty of people who were friends, but then had a falling out because something slipped, you know, somebody's viewpoint slipped out and they just couldn't handle it. You know what I mean? So like, I don't know how other people operate, but for me, like, I can sit and talk to a stranger if I'm at a convention about toys.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I'm going to be your friend. Like, I have to vibe. Like, we got to have a vibe, or I'm not going to, I'll talk to you about this, but it's like, I wouldn't consider us friends, and I'm not hitting you up, like, again.
When you say let something slip, you know, it does make me think kind of about something we were watching today, but it does make me think, like, if you like met a guy, right? You guys hit it off online, you know, in terms of met a guy, hit it off online. I know it sounds nuts, but in terms of, like, you know, both being into the same, you know, fiction, the same franchise, what have you see the characters the same way, you see the hobby the same way, you see the displays the same way, you see all of it the same way, and then you get together at some con and he lets it slip that he's like a raving racist or a Holocaust denier or something, and it's like, now you gotta be like, well, now dude, that's a deal breaker for me, unfortunately.
Bobby.
As you start talking, because everybody talks in the beginning, you're going to talk about your viewpoints, especially as your friends, and you're just getting to know everybody, you know what I mean? But then you find out, you know, something happens, or is it, I feel like all the political turmoil really started to happen like around 2016, 2017 is when it started to build.
I say that's
and
when
that's where, as it got
intense,
as it got more extreme, got more extreme. But as it got more extreme and people were really taking sides, that's when you saw people like go at it.
Yeah. Well, it's also interesting just that, like, that cross-pollination element is interesting, right? Because, like, we're all, you know, we're in these little groups and we're in these little pages and everything else, but, like, outside of that, most of us have a real world community of people that we interact with, right? So, like, the people that I work with may not have the same kind of general viewpoint as the people that I'm in these groups with, but when something happens that's not in that group and it's kind of in the public space, then it ends up becoming a free-for-all, right? Because I have I have the group of people that I grew up with, my nerd friends, and the group of people I work with, and that makes up my kind of community, and then a few estranged family members that I LARP and pretend we're family, and you know, and that's what makes up my community, as it were. So when I'm in in, a chat with my sister, it's one conversation. When I'm in a group, a Facebook group, it's another conversation. But when both of those entities are cross-pollinating on a post that I made, now it could theoretically be a recipe for disaster, and you might be making me choose between my sister and my Facebook group buddy. You can't tell somebody how to interpret something,
You're right, though. Texting, emailing, the written word. Although, if you take the time to really draft something thoughtfully with revisions, you can convey more than in a conversation.
No one does on social media.
Yeah, who's got time for that?
Right.
Blast out.
In the same way, just to play the other side of the coin of it, there is this common ground that sometimes you can get back to in spite of your passionate differences somewhere else. Like, I've been in conversations with people where it has started to go left, and one or the other has been like, yeah, but whatever, man. Anyway, have you seen the new such and such? Did you see the aerial bots from Zeta? Whatever,
correct.
And it's like this. It's like this delicate dance between two people verbally. That's just like, look, we are gonna go down the wrong path here if we continue. Let's just stay. Then you start to learn the boundaries of your relationship with somebody.
I wouldn't call that a delicate dance. I would call that a two-way street. You've got two people who are both saying, look, I'm that kid in the recess yard, and the other one saying, so am I. Let's forget this bullshit and let's be friends.
Right.
And maybe we can shelve this and talk about it maybe in a more sensitive manner later,
right,
and figure each other out and have a conversation, because that's a two-way street. When you butt heads with somebody after becoming friends, I feel like maybe it's a one-way street, one way or the other, or somebody's taking something the wrong way and just getting it, because there's some whack jobs in our field.
Right.
I mean, am I right?
Where it gets
I would call it a field at this point.
Where it gets tricky though is when the argument is one and the same, because I got into arguments with someone that was very close to me about a nerd franchise, but only because one of us, if not both of us, had assigned political views into what the franchise was trying to say.
Oh, wow. Wow. Interesting. Because that person believed so with their, and now you didn't think so.
Correct. But
so they're pushing an agenda through these movies now.
Correct.
Did it become personal? Was he or she judging you for not seeing a problem with it?
So I think that when you're passionate about something, right, whatever that point of view is, and the other person just doesn't see it that way, you can't help but judge them a bit. Right, wrong, or indifferent. You could be 100% wrong, but you're still like, man, if they can't see that, they're an idiot. You know what I mean?
The more visceral you feel in your position in an argument should be a sign of the more doubt you should have on your position in that argument.
Because you're emotionally invested?
Yeah.
I think what he's trying to say is that if I have a highly emotionally charged feeling about something based on my personal experience or life or whatever, it's going to be harder for me to understand the other side and maybe be able to look at it objectively.
Right. Yep.
I have met a lot of my closest friends I've met through this community. But to be fair, of those, there's very few that toys are the only thing that we have in common. And I think that there are a lot of people out there that I know and that I'm cool with, but I'm not as close to them in the same way because I think toys might be the only thing we have in common. With these two gentlemen that I'm talking to on Skype, the way that we met was through toys. But there are other people that I know in my life that I'm quite fond of, but there's no way we would ever meet without toys, which is the difference.
What's interesting is I think we've come to the conclusion, or at least I have, that it's a two-way street. We can let go of all of this garbage we've been shouldering in our quote-unquote adulthood and really enjoy. And it has almost helped me discover again, like, who I am and what makes me happy.
I think that you do have to connect with somebody, and whether it's necessarily something else that you have in common or it's a personality trait, or I don't think you have to have the same political views. I don't think you have to have the same music taste. I don't think any of those things are necessarily true, but you do have to have something that you connect over that's more personal, maybe. So whether that is a love for music in general, you know what I mean, or a love for movies, hobbies or a love for
It could be something. It could be something.
trolling people on the internet. Parenting. Yeah. Like whatever it may be.
Well,
or
in all
your
fairness,
job.
having a
Do you know
love
what I
for
mean? Like it
something,
could
you
be
can
a love for your job, like in an exchange of.
Laura,
Shut up,
if
Rob.
you have a love, if you have a love for something in common with somebody else, but you butt heads about the perspective,
yeah,
you're gonna have problems.
That's the problem.
So I don't think it's always a problem, though. I mean,
Like,
and sometimes
I love parenting, but my friends always judge me about my parenting.
I hear what you're saying, that the love, it could be the politics.
That could be the problem.
That could be the problem. I hear what you're saying. Sorry.
I think it's okay for people to be really good friends and have totally opposing views. I think it's a lot of different things. One, it's the personality of the two people coming together. It's the timing of when you let those differences come into play.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like a lot of that's just built, and it's just how it's the setting. So it's like baking a cake. You know what I mean? If the ingredients are just put in at the wrong time, you could the whole thing
That's
up.
very true, man. That's very true.
Cake, I'll tell you one thing. I am better off as a person in this society because of this community, because of the bonds I've forged.
I was gonna say,
right? I've made friends that I can't let go of, or I'm very resistant to letting go of, who I found out subsequently have extremely different views on things about our society than me, that because I wouldn't let them go as a friend, I had to think about their perspective really hard. It's made me a better person. I because of this community and the friends I've made, who in the echo chamber of social media, I never would have gotten to meet. I never would have stopped and tried to listen to them and think about them, you know?
Yeah.
And it's helped me open my mind as a person.
It's very easy for anybody listening. It's very easy to get involved in this community and start meeting people. And from that point, it's very easy to meet really cool people that you can have really cool conversations with. And if you're lucky, you'll meet somebody that you can really grow a friendship with.
a bushel of crabs.
Bobby's friend Andy.
Someone forging a sword.
I want to see Forge, the X-Men character.
I want to see a forged signature.
Ooh.
Oh, there you go.